Good evening. It's such a privilege and an honor to share the Word of God. I must be honest, I'm exceptionally nervous. So the message I've got tonight is this. The title is The Privilege and the Honor of Seeking and Saving the Lost with Jesus. Let me say that again. The privilege, it is a privilege, and the honor of seeking, saving the lost with Jesus. You know, number one, I can't think of anything more exciting than knowing this. That number one, we have a relationship with Jesus. Every single morning we get to wake up, run to our study or run to our Bible and spend time with the greatest being on this planet, Jesus. That's a privilege alone. That's an honor alone. I wake up each morning with such an excitement and a longing and a yearning in my heart just to get and be with Jesus. Because it's a privilege. Imagine this. Every single morning, you get to walk across into the White House, sit at the table, have a coffee with Donald Trump, and he starts chatting about world affairs. Every single day, and you walk out there, you think, maybe I'm a little bit special. Maybe I'm honored. But here's the thing, Jesus trumps Trump, and we get that privilege. It's true. We get that privilege to walk with Jesus, to connect with Jesus, to hear His voice. Just this evening, that word that Hensha gave, and the wonderful words. What a privilege. We have lost this wonder of connecting with Jesus. This Jesus, man, we've lost the passion and the fire to love Him and worship Him. I get so excited about Jesus. My mouth starts to water on the inside. That's why I jump up the whole time. I'm in love with Jesus. And we all need to get to that place. And we get to that place by spending time with Him. Connecting with Jesus. Once we really connect with Him and we spend time with Him, some stuff happens in our heart. Do you know there's no greater privilege and honor than living for Jesus and living with eternity daily now. Every single day, no matter where we are, whether we're at the company working, or we're packing chicken, or we're sweeping the street, or we're chatting to somebody, to live with this in our mind, in our heart, with eternity. One day, we're going to face Him. That changes a lot of things, how we live life on earth. You know, if you're a secretary, if you're a house mom, if you're a plumber, electrician, whatever else there is, if you don't have a job, whatever profession you have, in that field, in that place that Jesus has assigned to you, that is your field to seek and to save the lost. Now, this is not seeking and saving the lost. Phone me and say, Jonathan, come. No, you must do that, not me. You can't phone your growth group leader, hey, come and lead this person to Jesus. God's put that person on your heart to lead. You see, Jesus said, go into all the world and preach the good news. Where's your world? Tomorrow morning, you wake up on mission, going to work. Transforming that company or that place wherever you are. And if you're a house mom, that's a great mission already. To raise up those kids. That's a mission impossible every single day. Right there alone. I want to encourage you, who are you seeking at work? Who are you praying for at work? You know, this is a church that seeks and saves the lost. This is a church that has a passion for Jesus. This is a church that has a desire for people to come here and give their life to Jesus. This is a church that will seek and save the lost. Greg's got that heart. It's just emanating through all of us. I want to encourage you to embrace that heart. That's the Father's heart right there. We get to see it every Sunday here. Are we catching that heart? It's the heart of Jesus to seek and to save the lost. Because the lost people matter to Jesus. About 11 years ago, somebody seeked me. And she's sitting right over here, hence here. I was laying in hospital. Rotten. Wanting to commit suicide. Hence you phoned someone. Phoned Greg. John Owls came. Why? Seeking and saving the lost. Every single one of us have been seeked by somebody here with the heart of Jesus. It's time that we turn this thing around now and we start to seek people consistently, always. You know, when I was working in the marketplace, I was a senior project manager over there, and we had a nice little boardroom these nice leather recliner chairs, and behind us was the accounting department, and then there was the CEO. And I had a meeting with probably about 4 people, and we had a business meeting. It was fun, and I'm doing paperwork, and I was so boring. And I felt the Holy Spirit gave me an impression. Talk about me, Jesus. I said, that's a good idea. Yes. Let's talk about you. Yes. Finish the work. Hey, you know that awkward feeling? What are they going to think? You're nervous. Your heart is beating. Your mouth is getting a bit dry all of a sudden. What would they say? They're going to think I'm a weirdo or whatever. You know, all those feelings. But I had an impression in my heart that Jesus wanted to do something in that boardroom. And there was a little bit of an urgency. So I spoke about Jesus. It was wonderful. The whole atmosphere was filled with God's presence. It was beautiful. Then came to the end of the message. You know, that awkward part, that moment. Do you want to give your life to Jesus? That fearful moment. What are they going to say? They're going to say, no, I'm going to feel like a real idiot. No, that moment. So I said, do you want to give your life to Jesus? They all said yes. Yes. We prayed right there, oh Lord God, we confessed that you are Lord, and we done that whole beautiful prayer. I believe that you died on the cross and you're buried and you rose up on the 3rd day. They were excited. I was excited. They were all excited. I was like, yes, my day's exciting. It was so much fun. They got up and they left. I was so motivated to work even more. The favor of God and the blessing of God came into that company. When you turn your workplace into a mission place, Jesus blesses us. But provided you work well. Don't just preach Jesus and your work is, Be diligent in your job. First be diligent and then start to be a witness that way and then witness. Anyway, that week, Monday, I got a phone call. It was probably one of the hardest phone calls I've ever received in my life. It was like a train hit me. It was one of those phone calls that your priorities shift and change. You know, one of those phone calls where your whole life has just changed. You received some bad news, but it was good news and bad, both together. The phone call was short, quick, about 60 seconds. It was just information to me. And this was happened. One of the people in that boardroom died over the weekend. I said, oh, thank you. I put the phone down. I was happy they're in heaven. I was really happy I obeyed the Spirit. But I was so sad I lost somebody. You know, that feeling of losing somebody, even if they are going to heaven, it still sits there. You can only grieve when you can love people. If you're not grieving for people, there's no love there. A person that grieves over people shows the capacity to love. So I was grieving there, and then this is what hit me. The consequence, if I did not speak, hit me. I could have done this to God. Box him, blocks him, frustrate him, close the door, say, no, I'm too scared, I'm too fearful, no way, get somebody else. The fact of the matter is this. God sends us, people, human beings, to share the good news of Jesus to all people, to all races, to every single person we come into contact. Just yesterday, I was walking outside of my home, and there was a top security guy parked right there. I just walked him. I had no leading. God didn't speak to me. No, you must go there. I just walked him and I started chatting to him. And I just said this to him. When you die, where do you go? He looked at me and he almost cried. He said, I don't know, honestly. So I said, wow, that's heavy. And I said, and you're a security guard. I said, you can die quicker than me. He looked at me and he said, I know. He said, I know. Just yesterday they shot one of the guys dead while he was protecting security. This guy was so fearful. He was out in my house in fear. I said, do you have children? He said, yes. I said, how many do you have? He said, 2 girls. I said, I got good news for you. Good news. I led him to Jesus. This fear of death was just lifted off. He had a peace in his heart. And I told him this, you can face a bullet fearless now because you know where you're going and you can trust Jesus that he'll look after your family. He doesn't live in the areas. I couldn't invite him over here. But there are people broken. There are people fearful. There are people longing for us to tell about Jesus. Right now in South Africa, there's fears of land. There's fears of the economy. There's fears of all sorts of things. Right now. The more fear there is, the easier it is to share the good news of Jesus. It has never been so easy to share the good news of Jesus like it is in South Africa. It has never been. So the text we're looking at, Luke 19 verse 1. Let's look to see how Jesus does it. You know, when we read the Gospels, we've got to look at Jesus and think, how do we believe like Jesus, think like Jesus, speak like Jesus, walk like Jesus? Because the Spirit in us wants to make us like Him. We'll never be Him, but we want to imitate His life and His action to be a picture of Jesus to all those around us. We want to be the message, and we want to share the message of who? Jesus. This is the name above all names. This is the God above all gods. This is the God that we can never remove Him. I preached in a school just the other day that we can never ever remove Jesus. Never. I said 2,000 years ago they tried to remove Him. They tried to nail Him to a cross. But He rose up from the dead on the third day. You cannot stop a person from talking about Jesus. And you cannot stop talking about Jesus. It's impossible. He'll walk through the wall. Jesus. I want to encourage you to put courage in your heart again and start to share the good news of Jesus. This is one of the first commandments He gave us. What are we doing at that? We want second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. But we need to come back to the basics, talk about Jesus, spend time with Jesus, read the Bible, pray, and have fun in community. That's it. So easy. So easy. Let's look at Jesus, Luke 19, verse 1. I'm reading from the NIV. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. People are ready to welcome Jesus gladly. I have never today had anybody tell me, don't talk about Jesus. Never, even to Muslims. Never. People want to hear about Jesus. Who is this Jesus? What can He do for me? Does He love me? Let me show you His power. I pray for you. People want to welcome Him gladly through your life, through your lips. All the people saw this and began to mutter, He has gone to be a guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For this Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost. While they were listening to this, He went on to tell them a parable, because He was near Jerusalem. Let's just pray. Father, Your word is so beautiful. Jesus, You are so wonderful. Would You help us to really share the good news of Jesus? The limitations of fear and worry and just whatever people think. Would we just think about what You think and live life like that, happy in our own skin? In Jesus' name, amen. There we see Jesus entering Jericho. Now, Jericho was a very wealthy city. It was a very prosperous city. It was a borderline city, Jericho. People had money there. It would be like a Sandton. They had beautiful villas, spacious villas. They had beautiful fig trees because there was great weather over there, climate. So things were growing nice over there. There was wealthy people. They had bucks. They were rich. And Jesus was entering into Jericho. And because Jericho was a borderline city and was a wealthy city, they had lots of transporting of goods. So they had custom stations where Zacchaeus was contracted for sales and to gather in the tax. And being a chief tax collector, he had people working for him that was gathering the tax from the people. And we all love taxmen. Zacchaeus was a Jew, and the Jewish people hated him. They considered him as an outcast because he was working for Rome. They did not like him. They even saw him as evil, this tax collector taking money from people. And he would charge extra tax. Now, in his profession, he did not need to charge extra tax because it was a good paying job. He could just make a wonderful living. But he was rich. He was greedy. He wanted more bucks. He wanted all the money, and he kept on charging extra tax. Maybe you sit and you think it's not such a big deal, but who here has got a bonus before? And when you get that bonus, you look on your payslip, and they charge so much tax. Now imagine this, they're charging tax, and they're charging extra tax on top of it for their own pocket. So Zacchaeus would take tax for the government, and he would take tax for himself in his own pocket. And the people knew that. He was hated by the Jewish people. He was considered evil by the Jewish people. All the people did not like him. He was the stench of the town, taking people's tax. Maybe you think it's not that bad. Well, let's just say now you are wealthy. And every single month, you come out with 3,000 rand extra to save for your retirement fund. And who comes along? Zacchaeus and his men. Let me take 1.5. But I guarantee inside you'll be seething, and you can't touch him because he works for Rome. That's what he was doing. He was hated, he was stingy, he was corrupt, but he heard the stories of Jesus. I want to encourage you, tell the stories of Jesus non-stop. Don't tell the stories of News 24. Tell the stories of Jesus non-stop. When we tell the stories of Jesus, faith goes into people's hearts. When someone gets healed of a headache, that's a time to rejoice. When a person gets saved, that's a time to rejoice. Share the stories. We do not know what's happening in their hearts. That's what happened to Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector. He runs ahead and he climbs up a fig tree. A short man looking. Hey, who's that? That's Jesus. And he's watching. And he's looking at him. Looking. Have you ever wondered what Jesus looks like? I read this gospel and I'm done. How did he look, Jesus? What color was his eyes? Was he round? Was he skinny? Was he tall? How did he look? Was he walking in there maybe a bit sweaty? Walking on his feet? Dusty? Talking? Maybe thirsty? This Jesus. Fully God, fully man. Zacchaeus was wanting to see, who's this Jesus? Jesus walks in and he sees Zacchaeus. And he says this, Zacchaeus, come down. Jesus never met Zacchaeus. It was the first time that he met him. He operated in some supernatural information, a word of knowledge. He called him by name, Zacchaeus, come down. The Jewish people would recognize Jesus and as a prophet because he never knew him. He's calling him by name. Zacchaeus gets so excited, he comes running down to Jesus. Running down, and he welcomes him gladly. While he comes running down, the people are muttering. What people do you think Jesus goes for? We think Jesus only goes for us nice people, and he just loves us, and he just cares about us. But the reality is this. Once we were also up in the tree, looking for this Jesus. Where is he? We were also that side. Some of you maybe tonight are still that side, and Jesus is calling you. We were all once that side, and he called us. Jesus. Zacchaeus comes down, and Jesus says this. Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house. That's not a custom thing. It's just hey, I'm going to stay at your house. It's out of custom. It's not a cultural thing. Even in this time, biblically, it's a very forward, rude thing to do. It would be like this. Nick going down the road and he sees Jane. He flows in the word of knowledge. Jane says, Jane, I'm going to stay at your house tonight. What? You weirdo? Jane's a guy. Just helped you, all right? So, it's an out of custom thing. It's been very forward. Jesus was forward in your face when it came to evangelism. He wasn't just, yeah. He knew who he was, Jesus, and he said, I must stay at your house. And there were people complaining. People were grumbling. People were upset because Jesus, who is God, should have spent time with them, but he spends time with this Zacchaeus, this tax collector, this sinner, this greedy person, the stench of the city, the rot of the city. Zacchaeus was like a rotten toilet. There's no water, just full of stuff. When people looked at him, yeah, it's this man. Sort him out, but I can't. Some people talk like out of government. Yeah, these people. Anyway, Jesus goes and spends time with Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus has such a heart change. He says this, here and now, I give half my possessions to the poor. He's rich and he's wealthy. How much do you think that was? I don't know, but if you're a millionaire and you have 5 million rand, you decide to give half to the poor, that's about 2.5 million. I don't know how much he gave, but I know it was a lot because he was rich and wealthy. He gave a lot to the poor. I bet you those grumbling people were still not even happy. A grumbler stays a grumbler until Jesus gets in the heart. Lord, look, here now give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. All those people that he was stealing from, those relationships. Jesus done such a work in Zacchaeus by the Spirit in that encounter that he goes and he makes right in relationships. We get saved to go and fix up our relationships. Some of us live still with broken relationships after 20 years of walking with Jesus. My friends, can I encourage you? If you walk in with Jesus, he fixes up your relationships. He doesn't cut relationships. He doesn't break relationships, Jesus. Now go away, you're toxic to me, and all this stuff. He takes us and he puts us in a community, and we become relationally healthy for each other, being good for each other, fixing up relationships, loving each other, caring for each other. Zacchaeus in the world goes and makes right. He fixes up his relationships. And he gives money to the poor. You know, we have an obligation to obey the scriptures, go into all the world. You see, Zacchaeus got saved and he stayed in that place to be a blessing in the city. Jesus took Zacchaeus, he picked him up spiritually, and he changed him, and he saved him, and he made him a blessing. He made him a blessing to the city. In this church, down this aisle, we have led some interesting characters to Jesus. Right over here, a drug manufacturer came to me and gave his life to the Lord. But don't ask me all the details, leave the details. Right over here, Jesus intervening. On the other side over here as well, a guy that used to use this stuff tremendously, getting saved. Both becoming a great blessing. This one that used to use, great blessing. My friends, if we can start to pray together and trust together that people get saved, our city will be changed. The only hope for a city is Jesus. And no person is unsavable, put it that way. We need to contend for that person's life non-stop. Just maybe the person that gets saved is the person that's going to open up the door for us in the future to preach the gospel. I was working in a power station, and there was a strong culture of racism. It was really terrible. It was on the power station, the old school guys. And there was a lovely African man. My heart just broke for him. He sat by himself in a little desk, and the guys just kind of pushed him aside. They were racist. I went to him straight on, this is going to be my friend. I befriended him. I prayed with him. I loved him to bits. You know what happened to that guy? He got promoted over those racists. He became their boss. It was wonderful. They battled with that. I rejoiced because he was my little friend and my ally. He kept on getting promoted, this guy. And wherever he went, he kept on opening doors for me to preach the gospel. He knew exactly what I was doing. He said, go for it, go for it, go for it, go for it. But if I left him, maybe he would have been the one to persecute me. My friends, there's such an urgency for us to share the good news of Jesus. Just maybe that person you lead to the Lord will be the person to open up Christianity for somebody else in the future. We don't know what happened to Zacchaeus, but all I know is this. He was saved by Jesus, and he stayed there, and he was working for Rome. If Rome wanted to do some stuff to the Christians, you're probably going to speak to them, hey, just relax on that, because he was one of them. Then Jesus says this to him, right down to the bottom. Verse 10. He eyeballs Zacchaeus. He speaks into his heart, eyeball to eyeball, God looking at Zacchaeus. And he says to Zacchaeus, this is a son of Abraham. You know what Jesus was doing? He was declaring that Abraham blessing over Zacchaeus. The Jews said, this guy's not one of us. Jesus takes him and says, you are. And he does this. He declares the Abraham blessing over him. This is the Abraham blessing. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. And whoever curses you, I will curse. Wow. And all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. This is a son of Abraham. That's the blessing that Jesus was declaring over him. Right there. Then Jesus says to him, for this Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Why Jesus is on earth? His purpose is to seek and to save the lost. God's purpose is to seek and save the lost. We heard this morning from Berger that title, the Son of Man, is a God title. Jesus is saying to Zacchaeus, I am God. You are son of Abraham. I came to seek and to save the lost. That's what Jesus was saying to him. You know, maybe you're sitting here and you don't believe that Jesus wants to bless you. Maybe you got saved and you just never believed that Jesus wants to bless you. I want to encourage you to start to agree with Jesus. You too are a son of Abraham. That blessing comes to you. And because you're a son of Abraham, because you're a child of God, there's this mission that we need to do, which is seeking and saving the lost with Jesus. Every single one of us. Not one of us are excluded. Not one. When we get saved, the Spirit of Jesus comes to live on the inside of us. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, tomorrow, forever. He doesn't change. When He comes to live on the inside of us, the Spirit activates this mission of seeking and saving the lost, where we partake on this adventure of walking with Jesus to seek and save the lost. Jesus' life becomes our life. Jesus' passion becomes our passion. Jesus' purpose becomes our purpose, where we seek and save the lost. You know, if we don't seek and save the lost, it's like saying this. You stand on the side of a road, and there's an old person there walking with his little walking stick. And the big truck's coming. And you see the old person. And you look at the truck, and you just stand there. It's not my job. I'm not called to do that. Phone the elders. Nick, it's too late. Nick, come help me. It's too late. That truck comes and rides that person over. Not my job. I'm going to heaven. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm happy. Or you'd be it'd be like this, going to Table Mountain, and you're on that beautiful cart, and you're watching a little child playing in that door. Click, 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 click. And he gets the door open, and you stand in the corner. That's not going to be good. If he goes down, he's going to be dead. Oh, well, it's not my job. No. I love you, Jesus. I worship you. Me and you are so good. La, la. Oh, Lord, help that person. Jesus, help that person. You're the one there. No, help. Send somebody else. That child opens. And he goes, boom. Lost. There needs to be a love in our heart for people. People matter to God. The lost matter. Lost is not just lost down a path. It is lost in a place forever and ever and ever and ever, separated from God, living with no hope, living with all their regrets, living with the fear of having all these fears in them, never ever leaving them, all their addictions staying them, the fear of what's going to happen next. They have no hope. In a place called hell, pain, suffering, agony, fire burning over and 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 over. You know, if you get knocked over by a car and you're dead, it's finished. There, it's not finished. Hell is a real place where people are going. And we are called with the Spirit to intercept. What is God calling us to do as a church from this message? Simple, easy, not difficult. Be filled with the Spirit. Seek and save the lost. How? By praying. Lord, would you give me opportunities? Would you show me with all the people who you want me to invite to church with the expectation I'll get saved and there's an altar call? Or just lead them to the Lord over there and invite them to church. If you don't know how to lead people to the Lord, chat to me, I'll help you. Speak to me and I'll help you. This word will never leave you. You can run from it, but God will bring the word back to you. There's a lady in this church for 3 years, she's been running from Jesus to be a witness and share faith. 3 years. I went to her, I gave her a word. She kept on running back. Eventually she walked into that word to seek and save the lost. People matter to God. We matter to God, and the lost matters to God. Can I pray for us?